All right, we are in LA this week, and Hyundai has just revealed the Ioniq 9. I'm here with Olabisi Boyle, who is the Senior Vice President in charge of product planning and mobility for Hyundai North America. And we just wanted to talk a little bit about electrification, Hyundai, Ioniq 9, and just have a conversation. So,
Sounds
hi.
Good.
So I wanted to start with a question that was asked during the press preview, but obviously they weren't here. So I'm going to re-ask it for the camera. And what I would like to know is, we just had an election, and there is going to be a little bit of a regime change. And so I just wanted to know, in terms of Hyundai's electrification strategy, with the upcoming changes, does that change your outlook on electrification and what's going to be happening in the future?
I say we had a strategy that was selected based on consumer demand with respect to EVs. There's some people who want full battery EVs, but we always knew as we made this transition from early adopter to early majority, there was going to be those EV intenders that are not ready for full EV. So we've had in our Hyundai strategy, ICE, PHEV, HEV, all along. And recently we announced extended range EV because we always understood that this was a strategy you're going to have to take in parallel. Have award-winning EVs, I had 5, 6, and now 9. And then also have a diversity of powertrain that makes you more flexible for when larger changes in society happen or larger changes in the EV transformation happen. Also, having plants flexible that allow you to build both HEV and EV puts you in a position where you are willing to work with whichever administration is currently in governing, yet at the same time manage your strategy based primarily on the consumer demand. And so we feel that we had a very sound strategy to begin with that's flexible to manage through these large or small changes.
So what I'm hearing you say is, like, you didn't just wake up yesterday and say, oh, now we have to change everything. But your plan has been in place for a long time, and it's just really focused on the consumer.
Right. Not that these aren't significant challenges, but have flexibility in your manufacturing strategy, have flexibility in your product pipeline, have diversity of powertrains so that you are better able to navigate these large changes.
Right. No, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So with that in mind, how does the Ioniq 9 kind of fit into the overall strategy for Hyundai?
Right. And Simon touched a little bit when he was talking about the chess pieces, right? And then I tried to close out a little bit by saying our vehicles are also form, function, but purpose driven. So when you take those chess pieces that all have a similar base, but each one has a very specific function. So when we had our EGMP platform, we started out with Ioniq 5, which was a crossover SUV, right? And then we then moved to, there's some people who want a sedan. And now we have a very family-focused 3-row large SUV that's going to benefit from the platform by getting over 300 miles AER on every trim and have great charging time. So you get all the benefits of what you get from an EV with the flat floor, so it allows all this interior space and allows for those 3 rows and cargo room behind the 3rd row and ingress and egress into the 3rd row and room for both a 1st row relaxation seat and a 2nd row relaxation seat, move the center console so it can be accessed from the 2nd. So all of that is part of that platform strategy. But now we have the base, which maybe in those chess pieces, which maybe is that platform, but we have everything has its function. So here's the 3-row SUV, here's the folks that like sedans, here's the folks that want to cross over, and there'll be room for other places, other opportunities that we haven't yet launched.
So when you look at the Hyundai Ioniq 9, do you think that somebody coming into a Hyundai showroom is going to be like, I want an EV and I want 3 rows, therefore I'm looking at this? Or do you think that somebody's going to be coming in saying, I want a three-row vehicle and I would be looking at maybe the Palisade and the Ioniq 9, or what do you think the customer strategy is there? Like when somebody's coming in looking at the Ioniq 9.
So because this EV transformation is so large and people approach it differently, some are completely ready for full EV,
right?
And others are not. And they just want ICE, or they just want HEV because there's absolutely no change in behavior or thinking or anything that you have to do. So from that perspective, some people are going to come in and I only want ICE or HEV. Right. And that's fine. We got something for them.
Right.
Some people are, I don't mind either, but I don't want to sacrifice anything if I go to EV.
Right.
So if infrastructure is getting more ready, if I don't have to compromise on overall range, maybe I do want to try this. And then now maybe some people appreciate sort of that instant torque and instant acceleration you get from EVs. You appreciate how quiet it is in the cabin.
Yeah.
You appreciate if you have a home charger, maybe not have visited a gas station
right.
in the last X amount of years.
Right.
You discover those things when you start driving an EV regularly. And actually you appreciate them because you don't have the range anxiety if you do have a charger at home. And you get all those benefits in quick acceleration, instant torque, the space in the cabin, all of these things that come with it.
So, like, if you had to do like a brief elevator pitch and talk about the biggest selling point for the Ioniq 9, what would that be?
The fact that it's such a large three-row vehicle on all trims, you could get that 300 miles, I think is a big deal. The fact that basically the interior, there's no sacrifice interior in terms of functionality and actually refinement, with the relaxation seats, with the room in the leg room in the third row, and
yeah.
I'm pretty tall. Room in the third row, in the second row. The USB-C ports in every single row. Yeah. Because now you have a family, someone's gonna have an iPad, someone's gonna have an iPhone, someone's gonna have a laptop.
Right.
And they will all want to use them at the same time.
Yes.
And you can do that.
Yes.
The functionality that you get, the fact that from an EV you can defer all the power to the rear. And then use the rear and a glamping mode and sort of and use that, and you're not deploying all the power from your battery because you're sort of segregating it to the rear now as you use that. The vehicle to load feature, and being able to charge appliances and other external devices outside your vehicle for that glamping piece of it. The fact that one day, the fact that if you are concerned about range anxiety on the out-of-home charging, it's got a NACS port. Yeah. One of the first vehicles that's going to have that from a development standpoint out of all the companies that went to that.
Yeah.
So now you have, and then you'll still have a standard adapter, an adapter that we send to you that allows you to access stations with CCS ports. But now you have NACS ports, so now you have that entire range of access. When we get, Iona's going to start launching new charging stations, trying to get to 30,000 by the end of the decade. All of that is
that's a lot.
Is possible, yeah. And so just think about that, because the concerns people have now about EVs, as all this infrastructure is being developed, we might laugh about. Remember, we were so concerned in 2024 because by 2030 it's maybe not completely ubiquitous, but such an improvement over last time that now it's just like, the choice is actually relatively easy. It's hard to see that at this 5 minutes. But again, when you have a strategy that's flexible, a strategy that's committed to the diversity of powertrains, then it puts you in a pretty good position. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Now, because I know people are going to compare the two vehicles, I'm wondering how you would differentiate the Ioniq 9 from the EV9. Which, they're both built on the eGMP, they're both three-row SUVs, they're both EVs, and the design and the styling is definitely drastically different. But like, if somebody were looking at the two vehicles, why would you say you've got it? Like, what sets the Ioniq 9 apart? Okay, so I'll talk about the Ioniq 9, and I make no comments about Kia. That's totally fine. So, but what I will say about the Ioniq 9 is that it's pretty significant to have 300 plus miles on all trims. I don't know that all competition can say that.
Yeah.
And having that legroom in the third row and the second row, and the optimization of the space on that wheelbase is superior to some competitors.
Okay. Now I know you can't talk about future product. I get that, so I won't ask you specifically about future product. But this is the 9. So where in the overall strategy moving forward does the Ioniq 9 fit? I think Simon called it the king of the chess piece strategy. Like, what does that mean? And like, so where does the Ioniq 9 fit overall?
Well, this is what I'll say, right? Again, we don't talk about future product, right? But what I will say is we always explore areas that we feel customers are interested in that maybe we're not playing in at this 5 minutes, right? And what are their key concerns, right? So maybe there's key concerns, affordability and affordability of EVs, right? So maybe there's an opportunity there. What about different body styles that we've tried that are not currently in our lineup? And so it leaves opportunities, independent of what number we call it, to explore, and we always do.
So I feel like I heard this at one point, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard at one point that like the odd numbers were more for like your 5-door like hatchback wagon SUVs, and then like the even numbers were more like sedans. Is that true? Not true?
No, I wouldn't say that that's the case.
Okay.
So what I would say is, the first 3 body styles we wanted to tackle on the eGMP platform we wanted to start with that crossover, which is the 5. And the second one we wanted to do was a sedan, right? And so that was 6. And then we felt that families are a key market or key demographic, just like I'd look at affordability or other body styles that we haven't considered. We thought families, 3-row, because the and 5 obviously isn't that, and obviously the sedan isn't, was the next best opportunity. So we're looking at other things as we move down. I'm having a conversation with you 3-4 years from now, that where are people focused, especially in this EV journey? So do we have something that plays in that? So it was never based on like, oh, this is gonna be a hatchback wagon. It was more the body style that meets a particular need. Some people want sedans. Some people want a smaller crossover. And some people want a large 3-row SUV. There's other things people are looking for, and we're working on those.
Got it. Yep, that makes sense. So before I get into my final question, is there anything that you want to say about the Ioniq 9 that we haven't touched on?
I think we've touched on the majority of the issues, not issues, but the attributes that we're pretty proud of concerning Ioniq 9. I do, but I'm biased.
Right.
Do think that the front end prominent styling with that signature lighting is pretty attractive, and you spoke how it's different from other vehicles, and I think will be pretty appealing to the demographic of folks that we were trying to appeal to.
So now for the final question. What is your favorite thing about the Ioniq 9?
I actually like those relaxation seats. Am I allowed to like that?
Yeah.
And I love that they're in both the first and the second row. It sort of gives it this plush vibe, and I love that in our Hyundais. Yeah,
I feel like I was in. I can't remember which Hyundai vehicle it was. I think it was probably the Ioniq 5, and I was charging, and I knew I was going to be there for a hot minute, so I brought my coffee, brought a book, and I relaxed, and you're just I'm feeling very bougie right now.
Right, exactly. Bougie vibes.
Yeah, bougie vibes. Bougie vibes. Well, I really appreciate your time. Yes. Thank you for giving us a little bit of insight about the Hyundai Ioniq 9, and really looking forward to the chance to drive it.
All right, appreciate it. Great talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.